Happy State of the Game Wednesday, everyone. This is going to be episode 168, I think. Wow, that's a lot of shows. It's always nice to see, especially those of you who make it here right on time. I think there are people who jump into chat even before we start, and you're the best, including Yannick, which is nice. Big man's here, so we're going to be on our best behavior. I'm just going to set Nikki and Johan's microphones live so we can check that they are coming through. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Johan.
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Yay, it works. Yes, cool. Yannick, I did say you were the best. That is a true fact. And you don't even sign my paychecks, so I don't even have to say that, which is nice. Okay, yeah, no, today we're going into a bit more detail. There's some cool stuff to show you. I have a PowerPoint from Nikki, which makes my job nice and fun. PowerPoints are good. So lots of cool new stuff today. We'll get as much detail from Nikki on some loot things as we can, but we will see you in 9 minutes and 24 seconds. Just enough time to go get a nice beverage, I would say. All right, see you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Game number 168 on the 26th of August. I hope everyone's having a great week so far. We've got a bit of a show for you today, and I want to bring in Nikki. Sorry, Yannick put me off my game. I saw Yannick in chat. I've got Nikki and Johan today to talk about some very exciting things. How's everyone doing? Roll call.
All right.
All good.
Nice. All right, you're coming through loud and clear, and hopefully we have no technical issues today. Everything's been solid in our tests, and we're good. Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. I want to start with the priority alerts for today because we talked about it last week. The PS4 blue screens, there was a client patch that went out yesterday on PS4, so those should be fixed now. There are a couple of other edge cases that were fixed in the maintenance yesterday as well. Fixed an issue that caused targets marked with hostile negotiations to receive very high multiplied damage when shooting critical hits at shields. That was fixed. Fixed an issue as well that caused some players to get stuck in an infinite loading screen during the final part of Liberty Island story mode if they interacted with the door while their character fell unconscious. Those are both.
Yes. Just a really quick mention on the... Sorry. Just a really quick mention on the PS4 blue screens. Of course, this is meant to reduce the frequency of them. I think that it's very much realistic to assume that they're still going to happen for players. And if we find any other source of these blue screens, we want to fix them as soon as possible. So if you're experiencing any of them, do send us crash reports, etc. Any information you might give us, and we're definitely going to look into them and working to fix as many of them as possible. Because of course, it's not a fun experience to play a game in the middle of a mission or raid or what have you, and have a blue screen. So you definitely should see a reduction, and quite a significant one, I hope. But they may still happen, and if you have information, do share it with us. We appreciate it.
Fantastic. I just want to point out something in chat. So Ripper McGee was saying, these mods might ban you for any constructive criticism. That's not how anything works here. Constructive criticism is always welcome. Just keep it respectful. It's easy to do. If you wouldn't say it to your mother, don't type it in chat. That's usually the rule I go by online. If I would feel embarrassed if my mother saw it, I probably shouldn't be saying it. Okay. What else do we have here? Yes. So TU11 is coming. We don't have a date for you yet, but it is coming very soon. And I kind of wanted to show a bit of an overview of what people can expect, because we've alluded to a bunch of things, but I think it's good to get it out there in a plain format. So we know it hasn't been officially announced, but you guys have folks have found it and we've talked about it, but there's a new PvE game mode coming. Season 3 and all the things that come with it are on the way as well, which alludes to some new gear. Previous seasons have had new gear. Nikki did spoil for me before that there would be some new gear attached to this PvE game mode. Can confirm?
Can confirm. There will be
Right.
basically a third exotic that will be a new crafting quest that is mostly tied to this new game mode.
Okay. I am very aware also that's the Regulus in the new gear thing. It just looks pretty and we didn't want to spoil stuff. Appearance mods we talked about last week. Rainbow loot improvements we will be talking about today, as well as agnostic mods and the changes that have happened there. It's simple but high impact, so we'll talk about those today as well. Okay, so yeah, we've got quite a bit to get through. Johan, can you take us through a bit of what's happening on the bug fixing side with TU11? Obviously, we don't have an exhaustive list today, but where are we at with that?
Yeah, sure. So as Hamish mentioned, of course, we're still very much working on the build, working to fix as many things as possible and make sure that it's a really good experience when it does come out. But there's a few things that I've seen has been fixed that I know has been talked in the community, and I wanted just to highlight them here. This is no indication of how many bug fixes there will be, or if your issue is not on this list, do not take that as it won't be fixed. This is simply a few things that we already know are fixed and can be shared today. So with that disclaimer in mind, the reports that essentially the Striker gear set, you cannot dye the gear on that gear set, that is fixed. So you can now actually do that, which should be a nice surprise for many. There's also an issue with the crafting cost for SMGs. Essentially the polycarbonate cost, which is too high, and it was way above any other weapon type. So that has been fixed. Also fixed an issue that caused players to be unable to fast travel from New York to the Dark Zones, which is also something that we've seen quite regularly. And of course, there are many more, but it's also just a quick preview of what you can expect in TO11 when it comes out in terms of bug fixes. But for a full list of patch notes, that's going to be a bit closer to the PTS and the update itself. And it should be relatively soonish. Spoiler, but
Okay.
yeah, so that's it.
That's good news. I mean, I love when we have PTS patch notes and we can really make these streams about. I mean, I like reading streams. I personally am totally into it. But we shall see if that's coming. Well, we'll see when that happens. I don't actually know if that's a next week thing or the week after or the week after. We'll take it as it comes. I did actually have a chat to Bruce today, who couldn't join us because, good news, he's super busy making sure that a bunch of these changes make it into TU11. He said that there's buffs to a bunch of weapon types that he's working on, and he was working on some things for Lady Death and also like the firewall armor breaking stuff. He's very busy, so TU11 is going to have a bunch of changes there. And Dakid 1209 is asking about PvP updates. I know Bruce is working on stuff as it pertains to PvP as well. So, yes, TU11 is going to have Gamer Insanity. Does Hamish have a blanket hanging up behind him? Yes, it is a blanket. And behind there is some cupboards. Working from home hacks. Okay. Now, we did show last week a graphic that showed our roadmap for State of the Game. Last week we talked about the appearance mod system. I know there are a bunch of people in the community who are excited about that. I saw Kaylee Phoenix tweeting about that today. We today are going to talk about the rainbow rolls and all that sort of stuff. But we did say that the new PvE game mode we will be talking about next week. So I know people will be asking about that in chat. That's a next week thing. So put it in your calendars. I think it's September 2nd. Yes. Okay, September 2nd is... is the day for the PvE game mode stream. Okay. Nikki, can you give us a bit of a... Before we get into the PowerPoint part of this presentation, which is my favorite part of any stream, can you tell us about some of the things that you've been looking back on 10.1 with as it pertains to loot?
Yeah. PowerPoints can only be topped by Excel sheets, right? As a designer, at least. So, I just want to say that we hear kind of the sentiment from the community that about bad loot and things might have been degrading since 10.1. So I just want to start off by saying that we have made no changes to the improvements that we did on the roll side, basically the power of items. That is still pretty much the same. And we've done all our simulations again to make sure that that is still accurate. But of course, the simulations are not like a real world live game scenario. So unfortunately, there are a couple of things going on that kind of throw a wrench in this whole better loot proposition that was supposed to come with 10.1. Some of that is presentation, some of that is bugs, and some of that is system improvements that we're working on. And the rainbow loot is one of the things that we'll talk about later. But if we're talking about presentation, that's just a small thing. But if you're trying to judge, like I'm expecting a minimum percentage average on a certain item, there's actually some rounding going on sometimes for stats that have small increments or big increments, I have to say, like very few different values for the entire bar, stuff like crit chance and so on. Okay. So sometimes we kind of adjust the bar to match what the increment is, and sometimes that goes up, sometimes that goes down. So if you're trying to judge like the power of an item, the UI is not exactly accurate in terms of an exact percentage because some rounding is going on. Okay. But that shouldn't be like affecting the actual quality of your loot. You're still getting what you were supposed to be getting. The second thing is that we've identified a couple of areas where the content that you're playing seems to be feeding the loot system the wrong information about difficulty. So that means that even though the heroic tier loot is still what it needs to be, for example, playing heroic control points that seem to reset to normal of course, are not going to give you the heroic loot because, the crate at that point thinks that you're supposed to get normal loot. So that is one example of some content that we're looking into. Another thing is bounties, where we're aware that sometimes you're not getting loot that the bounty is saying that you should get. So we're looking into reports of that and playing the game, and our QC team is also helping out, trying to pinpoint all of these cases. And unfortunately, we have to sometimes, go case by case in terms of, hey, what control point is giving an issue or what mission is giving an issue. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that to try and fix those things. In terms of system improvements, there's actually two things. One of them is the rainbow loot that we'll get to. The other thing is skill tier items. So as you know, skill tier is just a fixed value. It's both a min roll and a max roll, basically. It's just fixed. But under the hood, it still rolls like weapon damage would do or armor would do. But of course, then that gets overwritten to a fixed value. So that makes it possible that if that skill tier decided to roll high, you will see lower bars for their two remaining stats because it's giving you a certain average. But of course, skill tier always appears as the same thing. So that's why you just see as a player 2 low stats remaining that are not the average of what you're expecting from heroic or other difficulties. So what we're doing is actually excluding skill tier from the rolling. So that is just a fixed stat, and the actual average power will be distributed across the 2 remaining stats. So that's why especially skill tier items may have been underwhelming because they are just not assigning their power correctly, which they will do in TU11.
Okay. Good. I like that. All right. Is it time for us to jump into the PowerPoint? Can we go to the rainbow
sure.
loot?
Right. Yeah. I can give an intro to this a bit, cool. Because contrary to what a lot of people believe, rainbow loot has not gotten worse or better between TUs because we actually have no weighing of attributes in the loot system until now. So I cannot argue with your experience. I cannot argue with RNG. But you're just going to have to take my word for it that both, only the core stat is fixed, the other 2 attributes are just completely random. And of course, RNG might give you a different impression. But we do know that if you're trying to hunt for this red build, full red build, or a full skill tier build, what you're looking for is items with everything of the same color. And of course, we have made items to have a certain profile, right? Like this is a skill item, this is a offensive item. So we do realize that some of these items need to be, tilted towards more towards that profile. But we also need to take into account the players that go for these kind of hybrid and fringe builds. And some items have actually been set up to be more of a hybrid thing. So we talked about okay, how can we make sure that we find a balance between helping people that want full colored builds and helping while not kind of making it worse for people that do want kind of more variation in their roles. And of course, recalibration plays a part in that because you're always able to change one thing. So that being said, we can go into the slides and we'll explain what's going to happen.
All right. I think you missed Yannick trolling you in chat. Can someone time out Yannick, please? That'd be nice. All right. Yay. My favorite part of the show. Okay. Rainbow loot.
Yeah, I put that in quotation marks because it's not our term. It's a community term. So, but we're just rolling with it now. No pun intended.
Take us through it.
Yeah. So here you have the part of the item that we're talking about, right? So the core attribute is a red core weapon damage. I'm going to give this entire example based on a red core, but of course it's also true for yellows and blues. So how it works now, the core attribute is red, and then the first attribute and the second attribute below that are actually completely random. There's no weighing in there. So that means that you can get a rainbow drop that has all 3 colors. It can have 2 colors. It can have, one color and everything is red, but there's no weighing in there, and that's what we're going to change. So if you show the next slide, these are basically the options, right? For the first random attribute, there's 4 attributes per color, so there's 12. So you have, if you go to the next one, you have basically an 8.3% chance of any of these attributes happening, and that means a 33.3% chance of something being of a certain color. So that, again, there's absolutely no weighing in there. So we talked about, okay, if we do add weighing and still want randomness in here and variation, then what should we do to make that happen? So what we're going to do is actually add weighing to the first random attribute, making sure that we can decide on a percentage of chance that that one is going to be of the same color as the core attribute. So what that means, if you go to the next, yeah. So we thought long about what that percentage should actually be. First, we were kind of settled on like, yeah, maybe 50-50 chance, that happens. But 50% up from 33.3% is not that much experience-wise. So what we're actually going to try on PTS is making sure that the first random attribute is 100% chance the same color as the core attribute. Which means that there's a 25% chance that you get the particular red attribute that you're looking for. So that's something that we're going to try on PTS, and what we would really like to have feedback on. And of course, we're also playing with it more to see how we need to adjust that. So that's a work in progress, but that's kind of how we've updated the system so that we can weigh these things more. And then, of course, for the second random attribute, if you go to the final slide, that is still, of course, the remaining 11 attributes. So it takes away the one that it was selected for the first random attribute, and then there's 11 left, so that means that there's a 9.1% chance for any of the others to appear here. And that can be a red one, that can be any of the other colors, basically. So that's how we change the system and how we hope this addresses the rainbow rolls. That percentage is up for testing. So we'll see where that lands, and we appreciate the feedback that's coming from PTS.
Nice. Well, thanks, Nicky. I appreciate the PowerPoint. If people are obviously going to have follow-up questions about it, please do let us know. And again, as Nicky says, this is going to be in the PTS, so feedback is going to have to come in with your experience of this. I already see, and with any change in the game, I understand it can be polarizing. I see Scott's Gaming 6DG in chat says, I am liking this. And the next message is Qua saying, I hate this. So we understand that these things can be polarizing, but please give it a shot on the PTS and let us know what you think from that experience. All right. I'm sure some questions will come in. Demetrius is saying, when is the PTS? We do not have a date for that yet, but it is soon TM. Are there any other questions that you've seen, Johan, that would be important to look for? Ryan J122 is saying, what about named items? Nicky, there's no impact to name items, or?
That's a good question, because it kind of depends on. I'm not an expert on the exact, item generation system, so somebody else who can explain this better. But I think it kind of depends on where on the item is the perfect stat, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So those will remain the same. If there's a named item, it will always roll its perfect stat.
Okay. Sue Bevix, we did mention earlier that Bruce was going to be in the stream, but he is busy getting changes into TU11. He does have some additions and changes to things that will affect PvP, and we'll talk about those in an upcoming stream. But that will be once we have all of that information, so we can actually share that with you as the notes for that PTS do find their way to us. Okay.
I did see another question in chat about how this affects gear sets. Mm-hmm. Because gear sets only have one extra stat, right? So that means that particular stat will be of the same color as the attribute if we stick to that 100%. But of course, you have a recal, and there's fewer stats on a gear set. So that still allows you to change one of those things to a more hybrid setup if you would want to do that.
I also saw a good question from our buddy DJ Tickle. Doesn't that mean now that skill tier will be overrolled compared to blue and red? Or I think maybe means like overrepresented in roles compared to blue and red, as yellow doesn't worry about the core now. Blue and red still has 3 primary stats to distribute. Is there anything that we have on that?
I mean, to a degree, but also the way that the loot system works is that it always decides on a certain average. So yes, there is of course a difference between, deciding on an average for 3 attributes compared to 2 attributes, but there is still a lot of variation in those two attributes that remain on skill tier items. Mm-hmm. So it's not that they necessarily become more powerful because more power goes to the remaining stats, but it's just like, 2 stats are rolled. And of course, for skill tier items, it's always been the case that you kind of just need one of these stats to god roll, and then you can recal the other one. So they've kind of always been the odd one out. And we think that this solution kind of at least improves the perception and the quality of these items. So
cool. All right, do keep your questions coming in. We're going to be here for a little bit longer, so Johan and Nikki, keep an eye out in chat, and we will see if there's anything else we can answer. I do want to talk about what is one of those changes that comes into a title update that seems like a little sneaky one, but I personally think it has quite a big impact, and I want to talk about the thing that we called agnostic mods. Nikki, do you want to talk about the reason from a game design perspective as to why those changes needed to be made?
Yeah, it has to, it's kind of twofold. One of them is more flexibility in your builds, so you can decide what to make and that you're not limited by, I have a red build and all my mod slots are red as well, so I can only use red mods, while I would really like to, have some additional armor or explosive resistance or whatever you want. The other thing is that there was kind of some hidden knowledge that you needed to have about how these items were rolled. For example, you have the Hannah U mask, which is a skill-based item, but also kind of set up to be a bit hybrid by giving it a red mod slot. And so there are items that have a fixed mod slot color, and there are items that just roll one, and that knowledge is not public to anyone per se, right? You'll find out through experience, but it's kind of, you need to know that. So if you're looking for this, completely yellow Hannah U mask, then it's going to cost you a recal to make that slot yellow, and that of course makes it more difficult to get the rest of your item up to what you want it to be. Okay. So that's kind of why we're going to what are basically generic gear mod slots.
All right,
and that means that they basically they don't have a color anymore, so they're just represented as gray now, and you can put whatever mod you want in there. And this is retroactive, so all of your items that had a colored slot are now generic, and if you had recaled that particular thing on the item, the recal mark will be removed, so the item doesn't count as recalibrated anymore, and you'll actually also be refunded the materials that you spent on that. And as you can see in the next slide, basically if you now go into your list of mods, it will just show you all the different mods that you have of all the different colors, because you can just put in there what you want.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I think chat is kind of agreeing that this is one of those small changes with a big impact. I see a lot of feedback, a lot of PogChamps. It's I like when that happens. That feels good. Okay. Damn, I did it wrong. My bad. Here we go. All right. Cool. Again, do let us know what you think of this change. I'm all for it. yeah, it's an easy win, I think.
Yeah, so that part actually doesn't change anything on the gear mods themselves, right? Those still remain blue and yellow and red. But I am bringing some news from Bruce, who is doing changes to gear mods, most notably the blue ones. We're doubling all of the resistance percentages for the resistance mods, so they'll be more powerful. That is also retroactive, so it will just be doubled for you what you had. And there will also be 2 new resistance stats, resistance mods, or stats on the mods, which are for ensnare and for confusion.
Okay, so yeah, if that doesn't give you the idea that there's going to be a lot of patch notes for TU11, yeah, you can expect some big notes. So you're going to be busy, Johan, putting that together.
For sure. It's going to be quite a task to put them together.
I'm excited. The Architect 101 says, "Where is Bruce? I miss Bruce. I miss Bruce too. But Bruce is very, very busy getting TU11 changes together.
Yeah.
So he didn't have time to.
As opposed to me, I have like all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So,
what it really means, Bruce is lazy. Come on, man. I bet he's.
No, Bruce is great.
Yeah. Okay, we have some. Obviously, the seasons are always running. Season 2, Johan, can you tell us what the latest is with Season 2, so people who are playing that can be up to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, yesterday you had the next cycle in the season. So, the 2 last targets become available. So you have Titan and you have the prime target Hornet. They're both now available to actually hunt down in the game. If you take down all 4 man-on targets plus Hornet, the prime target, you then unlock the repair trap skill, which is very much cool. I think that Image might have some gameplay footage of it that I will show in a bit.
I do. If you haven't seen it, I will show you right now what that looks like. Ooh. Nice and green.
Yes. So as you can see, it's repairing away. Definitely looking forward to that one. And as always with new targets becoming available, you have the double XP event for the next week where you can get some levels at twice the speed. So, take advantage of that, jump in and participate in the manhunt. On top of that, Hornet himself can be found in the Tidal Basin Stronghold. So it's a reworked version of the Tidal Basin mission. And I hope you enjoy the fight against him. As the climax of the season, or whatever you might call it. And excuse me for my voice; I'm a little bit sick. So.
Oh no! Don't be sick, man. Just feel better. It's way better.
I try not to. Yes. So finally, just as a last comment here, yesterday as well marked the end of the Huntsman League as well as the Reanimated Global Event. And of course, we have a couple of weeks left now on Season 2, but it is nearing its end. So if you want to get the repair trap soon, make sure you do so in the next 4 weeks. Although if you don't, for whatever reason, there will still be, of course, an opportunity to earn it in-game later down the line as well. So if you want it now, go get it, but it will also be available in the future. So that's more or less what's happening with the season.
Cool. All right. I do see a lot of feedback on the healing trap. Some people like it, some people don't. That's good. Please continue to give feedback on everything that we do. Like I said earlier in the stream, constructive criticism is always welcome and appreciated. So keep it coming. Someone also said that they miss mobile cover. I do not. I do not miss mobile cover. I have nightmares about mobile cover. Like still, definitely not my favorite. LFC is saying, now with agnostic mods becoming a thing, will we get a mod library? Nikki, any changes or future plans? I know that's not a TU11 thing, but...
As of now, not really, no. Mm-hmm. But we do know that the whole mod inventory and management is not what we want it to be. There's actually a feature in there that might have snuck a little bit under the radar, but you do have attribute filtering now in the mod inventory, so that definitely helps. But we know there's a lot to do in terms of the naming of items, the sorting of items, that kind of stuff, figuring out what are my best roles for each attribute. So that is stuff that is all on our radar and wish list. There's only so much we can do for TU11. So we'll have to see how much of that still makes it into what that build will be.
Cool. All right, do keep the questions coming in. You guys have been awesome today at giving us great questions. I do want to go over to some agent highlights because we like to celebrate the awesome stuff that the community are doing. This cosplay, I did figure it out. It is Swaffster. I'm fluent in elite speak, just so you know. Awesome mask, sick cosplay. So awesome work. Please do keep those cosplays coming because that's fantastic. That one's from Reddit as well. This next one is Mad Skill. I'm a huge fan of the art. I'm also a huge fan of what I think is a pitch to the game design team. Can we please have horse mounts? Nikki, please, with your authority, confirm horses coming to...
I think if I confirm that, the animation team is going to kill me.
Yeah, I think so too. But that is sick. Very cool. So Pami Aini over on Twitter, crazy skill. Very, very impressed. I think that would make a really cool wallpaper. So maybe I will just put that on a white background and make that my wallpaper. That's really nice. Yeah, Davs BR says just do it, Nikki.
Even Yannick said that. So I mean, if Yannick says it, who am I to say no?
You heard it here first. Is Paul Tassi in chat? If you could just write an article about how the associate creative director confirmed that horses are coming to the division, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate everything you do. All right. Did you guys see any questions that you want to address? We are currently over our usual scheduled time, but that's never stopped us before.
Just one clarification on the rainbow loot. That change is only effective for new items that drop. We're not going to touch your gear and what you've put together and the recals that you did. So that all remains intact, but it's just for future loot that you collect that applies.
Yeah, and the agnostic mod slots are retroactive across every loot that exists in the game.
Yeah, because they don't really, they only change your gear in a beneficial way, and we actually refund you the recalibration. So that is retroactive, yeah.
All right, I see Destin's in here. He says he's going to try and get it up on IGN. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Yannick, what have you done? Big trouble coming Yannick's way. It's not my fault at all. I didn't manufacture this in any way. Okay, thank you.
I saw a couple of questions real quick. So somebody was asking about the PTS, when it's coming out. We can't really say the exact date today, but next week you will have that information. On next week's State of Game, we will let you know what date you can actually play and participate in the PTS. And the same thing goes for any information on the new PvE game mode. So if you're looking to see exactly what it is or anything else you might wonder about it, next week is the time for that. So that's a bit of a non-answer, but at least you get an idea of when that information will be available. So make sure to tune in next week.
Very soon. And a couple of weeks ago, Yannick did spoil that the PvE game mode will be on the PTS. That was totally all him. Great. So there's a lot to look forward to. We did say, so these past few weeks, we've got a lot of new stuff coming into TU11. We talked about the transmog appearance mods coming in that update. We talked about those last week. Today we talked about Rainbow Loot and agnostic mod slots, and obviously there's a bunch of changes we haven't even gone into details on. These are just the new things. And then next week we're talking about that new PvE game mode. So that's going to be a juicy one. Calling Yannick out cold. See, it's fine. We can talk about Yannick when he's not here. He's not going to find out. I'm pretty sure.
Totally not.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to State of the Game today. Thanks, Yannick. Not Yannick. Yannicki. Thanks,
Yannick
Nikki.
is with us in spirit and chat.
Thanks, Nikki and Johan, for joining today.
It was my pleasure.
Fantastic. And we will be back next week. Johan, do you know who's on next week?
I don't know just yet, but I'm fairly sure that Mackenzie will be on, that some of you may be familiar with. So it's going to be chatting about some of the work that they've done, for sure.
All right, cool. We will see you all again soon. We do have some Division 2 photos, like we end every stream with. Just want to highlight, you will see a lot of repeated names because we do have a very dedicated photo taking community, but anyone can get involved. You can use hashtag the Division2 photos on Twitter, and we will grab those and show them off at the end of our show like we're just about to do. All right, thank you everyone. Bookmark next week for the new PvE game mode. That's going to be the first information that goes out, so you're not going to want to miss it. All right, I think I am ready to end this. All right, catch you later everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.